The Jim and Terry Show, coming to you from the Hobbit Hole studio in downtown Bobcaygeon. I'm one of your hosts, Terry.
And I'm the other guy named Jim.
And Jim is occupying the hot seat, full of vim and vigor, ready to debate any issue. And we're going to start off with the idea that words, what you say, matters.
They do. You shared with me, you would, given your genuine thoughts on an artist that you, and you're great at that, getting into the heart of the artist when you say, I like how you did this, I like how you do that, and it seems to go right to the heart of the person. And you've done this more than once, but this particular person, lady, said, you pretty well hit it dead on. Thank you. I worked very, very hard to express what I'm trying to express, and you got it, and thank you very much for that. And that encouragement will probably spur on 2 more albums from this lady, where you could say, I don't understand what you're doing. Your music seems to be all the same, or, that kind of junk, which deflates everything, right? It doesn't take too much effort, but it does take effort to encourage people and lift them up. It does take effort. It's not something just naturally willy-dilly does. But that's what I like about you. You go out of your way to say, okay, I'm going to comment on this person, and I'm going to let them know I listened to their song. I didn't just hear 3 minutes or 1 minute of it and come to my conclusion.
Yeah, and listen to the first 30 seconds and say, like, click, forward, and share, and sometimes don't even leave a word, are great stuff. And we've talked about how it's important to let people know that they are heard.
Yes.
And I know that translates into politics, and we'll get to politics in a minute, but let's talk about contexts in which people feeling validated by being listened to, by being affirmed or encouraged, context in which that should be taking place, or you'd expect it to be taking place.
Yeah, you would. There's all kinds of areas where you need encouragement. You should have encouragement, and
you should feel listened to.
And listened to.
Not dismissed.
It is very, very easy to find wrong in everything, and I have a problem with this.
Me too. It's easy to point the fingers.
One of my sons said that he thinks we're going to go into this new era of wonderfulness everything, and I said, now we're crashing and burning.
Well, I'm not there yet.
All hell's going to break loose.
I'm a moderate. I find between those two views a happy medium where we can live comfortably and love one another. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not pointing my fingers without realizing those fingers are.
It's easy for us to be critical.
At me, but a lot of it is. When there's criticism in just about everything else, is you're not doing what I want you to do.
Right.
And
good point.
It's hard to say to people, I know I'm not doing what you want to do because I don't like what you want. So this is why I do it this way. And some people just can't stand that, and they won't let it go.
Well, that's another part of it. To feel listened to, but to be oppressed, and then have someone continue with the oppression.
And that becomes really, if you don't really control it yourself, the recipient or whatever, it can turn into anger.
Oh yeah,
and that's what we should try to avoid. And again, I think a lot of it is we got to be careful that we're not trying to make people do what we want them to do.
Right.
We can make suggestions. We can say this is my opinion. But not everybody's going to agree.
And that goes from politics to religion to music, how we comment to other people, how we interact with other people, makes people either feel supported and encouraged and nurtured and valued, or it does the opposite, tears them down, makes them feel lousy about themselves, throws them into despair.
Yeah, and I think we've all witnessed that in our lives. I know I have, and I think you have.
Maybe we've been the ones doing the shoveling to bury people at one point or another. Yeah, it's easy for us to fall into the trap of doing the shoveling, picking up and throwing burying somebody.
It's a real balancing act sometimes because we get passionate. This world, I believe there's a whole force out there right now wanting to divide absolutely everybody. And gone are the days, it seems, of passive division or differences. Now everything is in anger. Everything is, it's my way or you're the enemy. Well, not an enemy, just different. That's all, you know.
Yeah, there are times when I think it's important to have a view of what is right and what is wrong, and whether you derive that basis on 10 Commandments or some form of a code of Hammurabi that suggests that we should value one another and encourage one another rather than tear other people down. But this day and age seems to be more about power, structures of power, where I can make you feel like a little insignificant person if I say this one thing,
Yeah.
and I can tear you right down. And why would I do that? Why would I make that choice? So who does make that choice? Who tears people down?
Well, you know, we had a former president, for instance, who, if you didn't agree with him, he'd call you pencil neck or horse face, or, you know, stuff right out of grade school, you know, to
That's a
point
stupid question. You're the worst reporter ever. Your network is fake news anyway.
Well, he's just one
Yep.
of a lot of
That's right.
people, comedians. They're rare. I like comedians that make fun of themselves. That's just gone by the wayside, it seems. So beware of all comedians that they could cut you in half in a blink. They're just that quick. And if they don't have a right disposition, they can really, really do damage
I
to you.
think you and I are both prone to look at self-deprecating humor as a release of steam about ourselves. You know, we can take the joke and what does it matter to us?
Yeah.
If you're confident enough, it matters nothing.
Yeah, I think if you want to be funny, look at it. You know, I'll give you an example. For instance, I went home and it was just one of those days, and I was going to go into the house, and I said, "I'm not taking my shoes off. I've had it. This is the second time I've gone to the house. Forget it. I'm wearing my shoes right in the house, going downstairs." So I went downstairs and I grabbed whatever I had to grab, came upstairs, took my shoes off, and put my slippers on and walked out.
I love it. Yep.
But you know what? That's funny. But that's me
Yep.
who did that. You know what I mean? And
There are days when my daughter and my wife are not home, and I do it when they're here too. I just laugh at something silly that I did, and I laugh at myself. And that's where it starts. I
that's
think that
better
keeps
than
you humble.
berating yourself, because this is another area where this can go into, and I really have a problem with this, which I'm trying to deal with, the berating of oneself. I probably wasn't very kind to myself as I walked out the door with my slippers on, got halfway to my car and said, "Oh, you idiot." You know, like, can't believe you did that.
Is that too hard on yourself, or is that saying, "Yeah, man, where are you?"
Well, I don't
What are
know
you
if I
thinking?
was that gentle on me. Sometimes I can be pretty ignorant towards myself and my faults.
Yeah, so there's a fine line between humor at one's own behavior and one's actions and piling on yourself, digging yourself a hole and putting yourself in it and burying yourself.
Yeah, well,
Why
you know,
would you do that?
even in my religion, you know, love the Lord God with all your heart and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Well, if I'm berating myself all over the place, not much love there. So I should get myself straightened out and try to counter that. One of the worst words you could ever hear, we've said it on podcasts before, is "you're fired." Apparently for a man, I don't know about women, but apparently for a man, that's one of the worst lifelong hits that a man could take. You're fired. And I always flash back to that show, you know, The Apprentice. You're fired. And yeah.
Consider
there's-
the source as one of the things that I often do when analyzing anything. The source of that "you're fired" is, of course, Donald Trump and his TV show.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people loved it. A lot of people watched it. But it is brutal how the ending is, you know, where you're saying to somebody, you're making them think that they're fine, and then you turn around and say you're fired. And that's it. And it hurts.
So what are the words that are the opposite of "you're fired"? What are the words that encourage, that give people hope, that floats them and puts wind behind their backs?
When you're letting someone go.
What? The kind words, Jim. That's okay. I forgive you.
Oh, yeah.
Words that talk about getting together rather than separating.
That's a great idea, but have you ever thought of this? instead of just that's a
Yeah.
bad idea or that's
Yeah.
I hear you, but have you thought of this without saying you're wrong? Have you thought of this direction? It leaves the door open both sides.
I have a cousin, Marina. This is a shout out to you if you ever listen to this show. And she's got a great approach, which is asking the questions in a gentle way with a gentle voice. I wonder how that would be if this was so. I wonder what that would be if you did that or tried that instead. What do you think would happen with this?
Yeah.
Inviting the conversation in a gentle way, but posing non-judgmental, just, I wonder.
Well, she's good at that's good because this is what we really need to ask ourselves. Again, the pointing of the finger, but three are pointing back at you. We need to ask ourselves those questions and be gentle with everybody who has an opinion,
Including ourselves.
including ourselves. Okay, what if, are you really stupid for that? No, you were just thinking about too many things and you put your slippers on and walked outside,
Well, Jim, I forgive you for being sick and forcing me to do a couple of podcasts on my own and having an empty chair sitting back and staring back at me. I forgive you.
Incidentally, you should have your own left-wing show. You're really good.
I have an opinion.
No, you do. Yeah,
Well, that's why we have the Jim and Terry Show, because as our disclaimer, if you've ever gone to our About on our page and you read that thing, two retired guys who enjoy our chats, but we try to be fair and balanced. Jim tends to see things from the life of a conservative within an evangelical Christian framework, while Terry tends to lean to the left on both social, political, and economic issues while embracing an agnostic religious perspective. And then it goes on to Jim was not in favor of unions. Terry was a unionist. And it goes on. And somewhere in the middle, we find a coffee.
Yes.
And that's the Jim and Terry Show for today. Use some kind words to yourself and others. Bye-bye for now.
What the?
What the bleep?